S.Nassir Ghaemi, A First-Rate Madness, Uncovering the Links Between Leadership and Mental Illness. Dive into the intriguing world of A First-Rate Madness, Uncovering the Links Between Leadership and Mental Illness by S.Nassir Ghaemi, where mental illness is explored from an unorthodox perspective. Ghaemi reveals how major depressive disorder and bipolar disorder can foster important character traits, with such individuals often possessing heightened empathy and unique problem-solving skills. This book's summary delves into the lives of influential leaders, such as Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Winston Churchill, and John F. Kennedy, all of whom exhibited dysthymic or hyperthymic personalities. Discover how their mental health struggles shaped their leadership and contributed to the world around them.
Unraveling potential within disorders. Mental illnesses such as major depressive disorder and bipolar disorder can be crippling for those affected and their loved ones, and unfortunately, persisting social stigmas compound the challenges. However, exploring the unique aspects and qualities of these disorders reveals that some individuals possess remarkable capabilities and potentials that many might not access. Depression, while causing sadness and decreased motivation, often fosters heightened empathy in individuals who have experienced it, providing them with a more profound grasp on others' pain and suffering. On the other hand, bipolar disorder creates non-standard perspectives, enabling people to imagine innovative solutions to problems. Additionally, milder forms of these conditions, such as dysthymic and hyperthymic personality disorders, also present interesting traits, including deep thinking and constant creativity. By understanding the nuances of these disorders, we can appreciate the influential leaders who have harnessed their strengths amidst their struggles with dysthymic and hyperthymic personalities. Unveiling radical empathy. Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr., despite their immense influence, suffered from depression throughout their lives. This emotional burden seemingly amplified their aptitude for empathy, which in turn played a significant role in their nonviolent political ideologies. Interestingly, this increased empathy stems from neurological processes, further cementing the unique connection between their depression and their drive towards peaceful resistance, demonstrating that mental illness doesn't diminish one's ability to change the world, but may even enhance it. Mahatma Gandhi, a figure of nonviolent resistance, and Martin Luther King Jr., the powerhouse of the civil rights movement, both struggled with depression from a young age. Gandhi felt the guilt of being unable to care for his aging father, even attempting suicide as a teenager by consuming poisonous seeds. King experienced multiple episodes of severe depression, which manifested in him jumping out of a window on 2 separate occasions after the passing of his beloved grandmother at the age of 12. As these icons grew older, their battles with depression persisted, likely exacerbated by the intense pressure and responsibility they faced as leaders of their respective civil rights movements. Yet, despite the immense toll that these mental health struggles took on their lives, there was a silver lining to be found. Through research, it has been discovered that depression can actually strengthen empathy, the ability to feel what others are feeling. This neurological phenomenon, called the mirror neuron system, enables individuals to experience another's pain as their own. It seems that for Gandhi and King, their depression amplified this empathic response, leading them to develop what the author terms radical empathy. Through this lens, it becomes clear that the nonviolent ideals of these leaders were shaped by their mental health, providing them with a unique perspective on peace, understanding, and love. In this way, Gandhi and King showed the world that mental illness does not hinder an individual's capacity to make a difference, rather, it might even serve as a catalyst for inspiration and resilience. Unraveling leaders' mental health. In 1938, British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain announced his plan to meet with Adolf Hitler to negotiate and avoid war. But Winston Churchill, who had seen the threat posed by the Nazis much earlier, remained seated in disapproval. The author attributes Churchill's perceptive nature to his likely type 2 bipolar disorder, which allowed him to grasp situations realistically. Similarly, President John F. Kennedy, who exhibited signs of hyperthymic personality disorder, faced the Cuban Missile Crisis by not giving in to the pressure to launch a preemptive strike. His mental health struggles might have contributed to his clear thinking during such a crucial time. Lastly, Adolf Hitler's bipolar disorder and reliance on methamphetamines likely exacerbated his mental instability, resulting in increasingly aggressive and irrational behavior. Before World War II, Winston Churchill had noticed the escalating threat posed by the Nazis to world peace, and he was unafraid to voice his concerns. His ability to see the situation realistically could be due to a type 2 bipolar disorder, which the author believes he suffered from. This disorder led Churchill to experience manic and depressive phases, which may have heightened his perception and awareness of the underlying dangers. When examining the 35th President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, the author cites his potential hyperthymic personality disorder as a contributing factor in his decision-making abilities. As a hyperactive and creative risk-taker, JFK skillfully navigated the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 by resisting the urge for a preemptive nuclear strike against the USSR. His unique mental health challenges may have given him the strength to hold firm amid external pressures, ultimately preventing a catastrophic global conflict. Another infamous leader, Adolf Hitler, is believed by the author to have suffered from bipolar disorder as well. But it was the combination of his twisted ideology and dependence on methamphetamines that truly unleashed his destructive capabilities. Evidence indicates that Hitler experienced mania and depression during his childhood, and his friend, August Kubizek, attests to this in his writings. However, it wasn't until Hitler embraced his manipulative and megalomaniacal persona that he rose to power. The author believes his personality disorder may have even facilitated such demagoguery. Furthermore, Hitler's increasing use of methamphetamines from 1937 likely accelerated his aggressive and irrational behavior. His prolonged drug dependence intensified his mental instability, making him less receptive to the advice of his subordinates and more prone to violent outbursts of rage. Overall, the mental health of these prominent leaders has undeniably played a significant role in shaping world history. Creative minds and politics. Often, politicians are criticized for their mental health when their decisions are unpopular or controversial. However, the author asserts that leaders like George W. Bush and Tony Blair were not mentally unstable, rather they displayed typical thought patterns for mentally healthy individuals. Furthermore, if these politicians had suffered from disorders associated with heightened creativity, such as hyperthymia or bipolar personalities, they may have approached the situations differently and possibly avoided disastrous outcomes like the Iraq War. Stubbornness and an unwillingness to admit mistakes are common traits among mentally healthy individuals, which may not always lead to the best outcomes in political decision-making. Neither George W. Bush nor Tony Blair were mentally unhinged when they received criticism for their political choices. Both leaders felt the need to protect their countries after the devastating events of 9/11, leading them to initiate the invasion of Iraq based on faulty evidence. Rather than experiencing unique thought processes due to potential mental disorders, Bush and Blair displayed the stubborn mindset found in most mentally healthy individuals. Consider a different reality where these leaders possessed creative minds influenced by hyperthymia or bipolar personalities. These conditions often result in heightened creativity, possibly allowing a leader to consider multiple perspectives and detect the weak evidence against Iraq. A more creative mindset could have resulted in alternative courses of action, akin to John F. Kennedy's approach during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Bush and Blair's refusal to change course, despite the Iraq War's negative trajectory, illustrates another common trait of mentally healthy individuals, an unwillingness to admit failure. Their persistence in maintaining troops in Iraq, rather than owning up to their misguided decisions, exemplifies the stubbornness that exists in many people. This hypothetical scenario suggests that if the US and UK had leaders with experiences of mental illness, the world could have benefited from their unique approaches to problem solving. Imagine a world where Kennedy was president post-9/11, an invasion of Iraq might never have occurred, or if it had, a quick withdrawal would have followed upon realizing the error. Embracing the mentally ill genius. Society often views mental illness with fear and prejudice, hindering our understanding of its potential positive aspects. However, recognizing the contributions made by individuals who experienced mental illnesses will help destigmatize it and encourage those who may be suffering to seek help. Many world leaders, like Abraham Lincoln and Ted Turner, had mental health issues which contributed to their unique perspectives, demonstrating that mental health isn't merely a contrast between normal and abnormal. In turbulent times, we may need leaders who can think differently, and this distinction could stem from their mental health experiences. Mental illness remains a taboo subject in modern society, and even medical professionals have been known to hold prejudices against those diagnosed with mental conditions. This continuing stigma hinders our ability to recognize the potential upsides of mental illness and the significant contributions made by those who experienced it. To shift the narrative, we need to acknowledge and accept that historically prominent world leaders were not always models of mental health. This doesn't mean we must rewrite history but rather add another layer of understanding to our perception of the past. Notable figures like CNN founder Ted Turner and President Abraham Lincoln experienced mental illnesses. Turner displayed a hyperthymic personality type, while Lincoln was dysthymic. Their experiences demonstrate that mental health is not merely a black and white issue. As we begin to recognize and respect the legacy of beloved historical figures who were mentally unwell, we can start to destigmatize mental illness. In a more accepting environment, people may be more inclined to seek diagnosis and assistance, embracing their mental health conditions rather than feeling ashamed. During President Barack Obama's "No Drama Obama" tenure, the ideal president seemed to be someone balanced psychologically and politically. However, the question arises, are such individuals always the best choice for leadership, particularly during turbulent times? Perhaps the diverse thinking that stems from mental health experiences can form an essential leadership asset in times of crisis, as witnessed with Winston Churchill during World War II and John F. Kennedy during the Cold War. Embracing the potential advantages of mental illnesses can foster a more inclusive and understanding society. By acknowledging the significant impact of individuals who experienced mental health issues, we can encourage others to seek help and support without fear of judgment. Additionally, we may find that history's influential figures, despite their mental struggles, have left indelible marks on the world, asserting that greatness is not solely reserved for the conventionally mentally fit.
In conclusion, A First Rate Madness challenges conventional views on mental illness and leadership by demonstrating the potential advantages of mental health struggles in individuals like Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Winston Churchill, and John F. Kennedy. Ghaemi explores their lives and highlights the ways in which their mental health issues paved the way for unique, creative, and empathetic approaches to leadership. It is important to reevaluate our stigmatization of mental health and acknowledge that these diverse mindsets can bring a valuable perspective to leadership, especially during times of crisis. By embracing these differences, we may foster more effective leaders and create a more inclusive society.